So Guilherme won't be with us today. And so it's 10:30 UK time. Time for us to start as usual. Let's start with a quick opening prayer. Let's just close our eyes. Join the benefactors in this effort to gain some knowledge, to receive the inspiration, not just for us to retain knowledge, but to put them into practice. May we be inspired by the good spirit and especially by our guardian angel. And may those in spirit also be welcome to this effort. It goes beyond our eyesight. So with the permission of the benefactors and their love about us, we start our meeting today. So be it. So let me share my screen with you people. Here. Share. Can you all see the book? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Munir, because I've been away for quite a while. Which chapter are we?
Yes, it's chapter 19.
Okay.
We stopped last time. We stopped with Guilherme. We stopped halfway through, an item here. So I'll go back and start at least from here. Otherwise, it won't make much sense.
Okay.
So this chapter is about the identity of spirits. So I'll start from here. With mediums whose current or previously acquired intelligence is developed, our thought is communicated instantly, spirit to spirit, through a faculty inherent in the essence of the spirit itself. In this case, we find the appropriate elements in these mediums' minds for clothing our thoughts with the corresponding words, whether these mediums are intuitive, semi-mechanical, or entirely mechanical. So it's clear here that for someone who understands us, sometimes just a movement of an eye or the way we look at the person gets a whole message because the person knows what we are feeling, what we are thinking. We could draw a parallel in this case when the spirit finds this identity in knowledge, in vocabulary with the medium. So the spirit just thinks and the medium immediately dresses the thoughts of the spirit in the adequate way, corresponding to what the spirit really wants to say. We've had that experience. Yeah, we look at someone, and by the way we look, the person fully understands what we are thinking, what we want to say. It's something more or less, along those lines. That is why that in spite of several spirits communicating through the same medium, the data received from them always bears the personal stamp of the medium, both in form and style, because although the thought is not exclusively the medium's own, or the topic is not part of his or her customary concerns, and even though what we want to say does not derive from him or her in any way, the medium does not cease to exert a personal influence on the form by giving it individualized qualities and properties. It is precisely like when we look at several places through tinted lenses, green, white, or blue. Although the places and objects are entirely different and totally independent from one another, they nonetheless always appear with the coloration given to them by the various lenses. People, especially at the beginning when they are studying and expanding their faculty, it's very common that they feel insecure, that they think, oh, this is me, this is mine, my thought. It's, it's natural. And people are always afraid of animism, the manifestation of his or her own spirit. But that, as it's been said, is inevitable, inevitable. Although we receive ideas from a spirit, we would dress these ideas with our vocabulary, with a structure in our minds that we are used to. So a spirit may give me a message, and I may use very elaborate words to convey the message to the group. And the same spirit and the same message may be given, through a different medium. And the words are, sort of straightforward, not, elaborate words and difficult words. And so these style, form are the characteristics of the mediums. But if the medium is very well prepared, the essence of the message is going to be the same. It's just a question of choosing words or sentence structure or conveying the message in a few words, straightforward, or going round and round, making it more elaborate and explaining it again. So these are styles that are characteristics of the medium. But the idea itself, the essence, is from the spirit. So animism is always present to a lesser or greater degree, but animism is always present because it's not possible to use a human or a spirit, incarnate spirit, as the medium, the intermediary, without having some kind of influence from the intermediary. It's like, sending a sound through a wire. When it gets at the other end, the wire may introduce some noise, may interfere with that. We may still hear very well the music or the message on the other side, but we perceive that there is some cracking on the message or something that has been introduced by, the noise in the wire. And, it may compromise or not the message. The content is there, but the message may not be that clear because there's too much noise. And, I couldn't understand if he said this or that, but, overall, I got the message. So we are like that. We saying, mediums in general, or all of us, when we perceive something, we dress that immediately with our knowledge, we structure the thought with our knowledge, and we use our words, our ways of expressing ourselves to convey the message or the idea that has been passed on to us. Okay? Hello, Charles. Rafael is here as well. Adriana. Okay.
Lise rose her hand.
Yeah,
Sorry,
hi. Yeah.
yeah.
I just want to say regarding this topic and this paragraph that yesterday I was given very concise messages from our family medium that my sister spoke to. And my family in spirit, both my grandparents, both sides, my dad, my brother, and my son, were all waiting to give the messages. And I knew that there was a backlog of messages to come to me. And the flavor was definitely of my father because he knew all the questions I wanted. And he just gave them like bullet points, boom, 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 in exactly the way I needed it. Absolutely no ambiguity. And I have now like a kind of blueprint of the way forward, and with all the problems that we were facing. And it's absolutely incredible because this particular medium, he's from Colombia. He's been with our family for a very long time. And yeah, they all can communicate through him. You can't always communicate through some mediums, as you know, but they're all very comfortable with him. And we get very, very concise messages. Though obviously it's important to remember that you cannot rely on mediums for organizing your life. We are responsible for organizing our own lives here in general. But in these particular cases, it was important for my way forward and the family in general. So, and a Christmas message, of course. So
Yes,
just,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's always important to know, through whom the message is coming from, but also the content of the message. And good spirits, they have no time to waste, so they are concise, you know.
Yeah. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, wonderful. A better example, let us compare mediums to those glass bottles that are filled with colored and transparent liquids, and that may be seen in drugstores. Well then, we are like luminous focal points shining on certain moral, philosophical, and psychological inner scenes, illuminating them through blue, green, or red mediums in such a way that our luminous rays take on their colorations. In other words, our rays must pass through glass that varies in degrees of cut and transparency, which means mediums with different degrees of intelligence. Our rays only reach those objects that we want to illuminate by taking on the coloration or personal style of the mediums. I'll stop here before we finish this part. Just to say again, you know, it's very difficult to find a totally transparent medium. We always have some degree or, you know, greater or lesser degree of color, of, you know, glass thickness or whatever distortion that we, you know, promote when this ray is going through us or through mediums in general. This is natural, it's part of the process. So the effort of mediums is actually to be as good as a medium intermediary as possible, in the sense of not distorting that much the ray of light that is going through this medium. Okay. Finally, to finish with one more comparison. We spirits are like musical composers who have composed or would like to improvise on an air and have only one of these instruments at our disposal: a piano, a violin, a flute, bassoon, or a 10-cent whistle. There is no doubt that with the piano, the flute, or the violin, we will play our piece satisfactorily to our listeners. Even though the sound of the piano, bassoon, or flute is each essentially different for each instrument, our composition will always be the same one, in spite of the differences in sound. However, if we only have the 10-cent whistle at our disposal, we would run into difficulties. It's also a very good example here. Trying to, you know,
Yes,
improvise in the air. Yeah, go on, Sarsi.
Munir, I would just like to give an example. You know, Camille Flammarion, he knew Kardec around 1860, and he was a medium in the Société Parisienne des Études Spirites, the society Kardec was leading. And at that time, he received messages from the spirit of Galileo about the solar system, the planets, and so on. How did they form? How did they, what's their origin, and so on. By the way, Kardec took this communication and inserted them into the Genesis, when he talks about the, what's the name? Material Genesis, physical Genesis. And later on, Camille Flammarion wrote in a book or wherever that the communications he received from Galileo Galilei, at that time, he had already the necessary knowledge to be capable to write those things by himself. So this rose adopt were these communications coming from Galileo Galilei. And of course, a lot of people took the opportunity of that to say, you see, Camille Flammarion says the mediumnity does not exist, blah, blah, blah. But it's exactly what we see here. why did Galileo Galilei choose Flammarion for transmitting those messages? Exactly because he had already the necessary knowledge. And this is then giving the place to raise legitimus doubt from Flammarion himself. I could have written this myself. And the spirits here are clearly explaining this point. You could, yes, but it was not you. It was the spirit who wrote that through you. And he wrote that through you because you had all the notions, all what was necessary in order to write those things. And by the way, what, for instance, you know, how did the Earth appear? How did the moon be formed from the Earth and whatsoever? These theories that were advanced at that time are the ones which are still in vigor today. Yeah? So that's why also it's another element to say it was inspired from higher spirits.
Yeah, thanks. Sounds very, very interesting. But yes, it is usually like that. And I don't know why we expect, for instance, in this case, Galileo would give a message contradicting everything that was known in astronomy or, you know. We always expect spirits to come and tell us something, you know, completely different. And we forget, as has been said here, that they use our knowledge. And Camille Flammarion said, I could have written that myself, but he didn't. He wasn't at any moment inspired to write, you know, himself that, but he had the knowledge, of course. He could understand what was being said, and he accepted that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it is his own manipulation of ideas to create that kind of message. But that manipulation actually, that, you know, arrangement of elements in his mind was actually coming from someone else and not from his own mind. But yeah, sometimes it's very subtle, and sometimes it's not easy to be the instrument of spirits and, you know, let them, you know, talk in inverted commas through us instead of just, you know, putting our thoughts first and not letting them, you know, their ideas flow. But this is part when we see, when you say, oh, I'll do a mediumship development. It's not the faculty itself that's going to be developed, but the use of it, the way what we learn, the practices that will allow us to be good instruments. And of course, the part that we can do or can put most of our effort is our moral development, which is, you know, the following chapter. So I won't go any further on that, but just to give us an idea. Okay. Shall we carry on? No hands raised. Okay. In fact, when we have to use little advanced mediums, our work becomes slower and tedious because we must resort to incomplete forms of expression, which is an impediment to us. We are then forced to break down our thoughts and dictate word by word, letter by letter, which is tiring and fatiguing to us, and comprises a real restraint on the promptness and development of our manifestations. It's interesting, while I was reading this, it reminded me, my 11-year-old daughter, every now and then she says, Father, how do we spell this word in English? And I pronounce the word. And she said, well, but I need you to spell. I don't know how to write. So I have to go letter by letter. She will understand letter by letter. She write it in the proper way, but I have to go letter by letter. So just saying the word is not enough. I think it's more or less the same to the spirits. When we lack the knowledge to dress the thoughts of the spirits, they have to go letter by letter, you know, as they say here, rap by rap, you know, character by character, so we can begin to create the message. And perhaps we may not even understand what has been written. We may be, spiritually speaking, illiterate in that sense that, you know, the content of the message is basically unknown to us, or is superior to our intelligence in this sense. But, you know, for them, can you imagine just dictating word by word so that they could make themselves understood? Oh, hello, Christine.
Hi, Munir. I just wanted to say it. I thought that was a great passage that you just read out then, because it's something you don't really think about when you're talking to people who are of different levels of skill of being a medium, because it just makes sense. The less advanced that you are as a medium, the harder it is for the spirits to get their message across. So yeah, it's just interesting. I just found that very interesting.
Yeah. But we should always bear in mind this level of intelligence, of development, is of the spirit, and not in that present moment, at that present moment, the incarnation that we have. We know that, for instance, Emmanuel, after being that in a very important senator in Rome, he was a slave. But the knowledge he had, he brought with him about Rome, amazed even the Romans. And for those who read the book 50 years later, the sequel to 2000 years ago, he tells his incarnation after being the Roman senator, when he met Jesus. The following one, he comes as a slave. And he's actually responsible for the education of two young girls in a Roman house. And they were really impressed by the knowledge he had without being in Rome, without being with his life as a slave. He was capable of telling about, the basis of the Roman society, the foundation of the Roman society, and so on. He didn't know where that was coming from, but it was there. So when we see a medium today, we are not just considering his present situation, but the baggage that he brings. And when the spirits say, oh, he's a very intelligent spirit, doesn't necessarily mean today, because he may be very humble. We see, for instance, Chico Xavier. Chico Xavier, I think he didn't finish primary school. He was considered almost illiterate. And his first book was a book written by poets, and beautiful poems with different styles. And some scholars analyzed this book, and they said, yes, this message is been said to, come from that particular poet. And yes, it matches his style. And the following on, the same thing. So we see he had the baggage. He had wonderful baggage. He was already a very developed spirit. But in this incarnation, he was very humble in his social position. So when the spirits say that, they dress their thoughts, and the communication is spirit to spirit, if it is spirit to spirit, the baggage that we bring with us will always, make easier this work of conveying the information. It's the same with language. In this present incarnation, I don't speak German, for instance, but I may receive a message in German. Why? Well, I had 2, 3, 4 incarnations in Germany. I spoke, German in one of my previous, not too long ago, incarnations. So that is used. Okay. Right. That is why we feel fortunate to find mediums well prepared, sufficiently equipped, and furnished with mental elements that can be quickly utilized. In other words, good instruments. For then, our perispirits, acting upon the perispirit of whomever we mediumize, only has to give impulse to the hand, which serves as a pen or pencil holder. With better equipped mediums, we are obliged to perform a work similar to when we have to communicate by means of raps, that is, letter by letter, word by word, in order to form the sentences that translate the thought to be transmitted. That is the reason why we prefer enlightened and educated classes of individuals to divulge spiritism and develop written mediumship. Although in such classes we also encounter the most incredulous, rebellious, and morally depraved individuals. It is also the reason why, if nowadays we allow little advanced spirits to transmit tangible communications through raps and apparitions, the least serious persons among you also prefer phenomena that touch their eyes and ears to those of a purely spiritual and psychological nature. Two things very important here in this paragraph. The first one is Erastus is saying here, where is it? We allow little advanced spirits to transmit tangible communications. He's basically saying that, you know, the physical manifestation is usually performed by little advanced spirits. So they are used to transmit tangible communications. They are not saying evil spirits. They're saying little advanced, perhaps in moral sense, perhaps in intellectual sense. And intellectual, I mean intellectual, I mean in a broader sense, not just intelligence, but the knowledge, the experience that spirit may bring. And also saying that, you know, this kind of phenomena touch their eyes and ears. So we see that, you know, some people are really interested in deep thoughts and texts to read. Some people like that. Some people don't like at all. You know, they prefer more sort of a physical contact or direct information, sometimes even given by others. It depends, you know. And in this case, they are saying that here, or Erastus is saying that, you know, there are persons among you who prefer that thought, that touch their eyes and ears, rather than a purely spiritual and psychological nature. So we see that the Spiritism started basically with physical manifestation. And one of the reasons we can see here in this answer is actually to call the attention of a lot of people. But when we look, you know, what happened and see what happened to, you know, all those who had contact with this initial movement of physical manifestation, very few went to study. And one of them who took it seriously produced what we have today, that is, you know, the Spiritist Pentateuch, the 5 books, who was, you know, Allan Kardec. He was also touched by the physical effects produced, you know, with this phenomena, but he didn't stop there. He moved forward. So we clearly see that, you know, the reason why we had this, you know, physical manifestation almost, you know, everywhere during a certain period of time. And that was actually to call the attention of very few who would, you know, foster that and enter into a new phase, which was that of getting information instead of just amusing themselves with, you know, the turning tables and raps and so on. Whenever we want to dictate spontaneous messages, we act upon the mind, the medium's archives, and we join our own material with the elements they provide us, all without them realizing it. So we don't hear that, oh, a spirit is opening my filing cabinet there. Oh, it's taking some files from the... No, silence is subtle. We think it's us. Oh, all of a sudden, I, that thought came into my mind, and yeah, so I had a recollection of these facts, of these events, of this book, of this message from this and that person. It happened so spontaneously that we don't realize that, was actually, the process was started by someone else. All without them realizing. It is as if we took the money from their pockets and arranged the coins in the order that seemed best to us. However, whenever mediums themselves want to question us through whatever means, it would be good for them to reflect seriously beforehand in order to ask us questions methodically, making our work of responding easier. Because according to what was stated in a previous instruction, your minds are
Você
frequently
sabe o que acontece quando você
inextricable
Defina, né?
disorder. Hello, Liz. Oh, okay. I thought Liz wanted to say something. Your minds are frequently in inextricable disorder, making it difficult and tedious to move about in the maze of your thoughts. This is really interesting. And we know it is true. Our minds, sometimes they are our thoughts. They are like a wild horse. We have no control. We want to focus on something, and then we have different thoughts crossing our minds. And then, this expression of a maze of your thoughts. Yes, it is. It is a maze. So they have to organize, they have to help us follow the sequence. And we see that Kardec did that so brilliantly. The sequence of questions that were, posed to the spirits, and their answer, and the spirits, the way they answer, they always refer to previously answered questions. And then they start to elaborate something bigger, not just one question without connection to the previous one or to the following one, but we see a sequence that actually creates a whole structure, whole body of knowledge, and that was done very well by Kardec. And of course, his background as a teacher, as someone who was dedicated to sciences and so on, helped a great deal. So we can see that, his life was a preparation for the task that, had been assigned to him. Whenever questions must be asked through a third party, it would be a good and appropriate idea to communicate them beforehand to the medium, so that he or she may identify with the spirit to be questioned, becoming impregnated, so to speak, with its thoughts. For then we will find it much easier to respond thanks to the affinity between our perispirits and at that of the medium, who is to serve as our interpreter. So we see how important it is, to actually put the questions to the medium beforehand, so the medium can, establish a certain, frame of mind where the spirit can act. So, okay, so these will be questions about this and that aspect. And the person formulating the questions may say, no, basically what we want are actually to, solve doubts on these, on that. Oh, okay. All right. So, okay, I got it, so I understand. So this actually prepares, the fine tuning between the medium and the spirits. Of course, it's not always compulsory. It's not rigid, and say it won't work if it's not done this way. No, but this is in most cases what is advised, Hello, Liz.
Hi there. Yeah, what I've found in the past is that you need to be with the medium when the questions and answers are coming through, because for just that reason, because in between the first and the second question, you might need to drill down to get further information before it moves on and to clarify things. So from that point of view, you know, it's important that you are there, because you're the person with the knowledge and knowing what knowledge you're wanting to achieve, or to recognize when it's not quite right. On the other hand, as I say, with my father, I know that the spirits read my questions when I write them down. So they're already au fait with the questions. And I speak to them and say, well, you know my questions better than me now, and you know my life better than me, because you can see the past, the future, and everything. And that way, the medium didn't need to know the questions in advance, because the spirits already had them. But that's because they knew me. In a case where you're trying to get facts for a book, for instance, like Galileo was giving, then yes, you need to have people who have that information, they have that knowledge already to be able to analyze properly.
Yeah, this piece of advice is actually more for the process of communication, actually, to the medium, then, because the spirits, yes, they may know the question, the questions you're going to pose, but it's important that the medium be how they say in the right frame of mind for that kind of subject, for those questions, so that we make easier the work of the spirits using the medium as an instrument.
So it's priming the medium, really, priming
yeah.
into the questions.
Yeah, it's like,
Okay.
You just get everyone together in your office before you go to a meeting. It's a briefing. You just tell people more or less what is going to be discussed. So they are already, prepared for the type of work that's going to be done. If they get there and it's something completely different, say, oh, I wasn't prepared for that. I haven't thought about that. I haven't, this kind of thing. Just, to give a crude example. Hi, Charles.
Yes, Munir. So again, here seems to be some contradiction, but there is none. For instance, when you give the question to a medium before 1 week before, for instance, the session, you may then suspect, he has Googled, he was in Wikipedia, he has done this, he has done that. So the answer he will give to me is not the one from the spirit, but the one he searched by himself, isn't it? So, but here again, we need to think about what is really the purpose. The purpose is to console, to help the spirits in need. The purpose is also to learn and to develop the theory or whatever. So, with those purposes, any means you use are valid. If you want to help someone, you can use it's not just a problem to see. I'm sure that the spirit who came was really a spirit and was not the medium helping that person or that spirit or whatever, but we don't care about this. We just care about helping him, like we just care about learning something. And when you want to learn something, is there a better way than to search ourselves for the instruction in that field? So that will even improve, because the day when there is a mediumistic meeting, based on what the medium has learned in the interval when he receives the question and the session, the spirit can even start on this and build more things on top. You understand? We are not here to make, Valérie, how do you say devinette in English?
A quiz when you're
quiz, yes. It's
when
not a quiz, it's not just to test the spirits. That's not the purpose, or to test the medium. The purpose is to achieve the work.
I was going to say that, Charles, because we had two purposes in the mediumship session. One is to investigate the phenomenon itself, This is something different. Then you have to be cautious enough to tell if it, it's coming from the spirit, if it's not from the medium, or the percentage coming from the medium. But when you're doing, you're working with mediumship, this becomes irrelevant. The content of the messages and the results of the message are more important than anything else. If we are as mediums, if we are helping someone, and all of a sudden we remember something, oh, I read this a few days ago, that may help you. Well, that may be that piece of memory may become alive because the spirit went there and helped us to remember. But it wasn't coming from the spirit. The spirit was there trying to help as well. He was, through this movement, bringing something back to our mind, something that we had read or we had experienced in the past, to help that person. But it's not something that the spirit is telling us. It's coming from us. It's valid if we can help someone. So when the spirits are with intention, or with the group, the medium, the mediums and spirits are there to help other people, the help is the most important thing. If it's something that I remember, if something that I prepared in my mind, I was perhaps inspired to prepare, to read and elaborate the thoughts, so at that moment I could offer that to that. It doesn't matter. It's a group helping. Each one contributes with part of it. If it has to be a message from the spirit, it's a message from the spirit. So we're not there to check, but he read that. That came from, the book that he was reading last week. And it doesn't matter. We are not there to prove that, it's a mediumistic phenomena, it's a anemic phenomenon, or it's a combination of both, or the percentage of one and the other. No, we are there with a certain purpose. And anything that can help the person can be used. Charles,
Sorry.
anything else you want to say?
I have meeting.
Hello, Ursuline. I see your hand raised.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I think about this part, but I beg your pardon, I come a little bit later because I couldn't come in. This is my I have time to come. So, the interesting this part of, because I remember some years ago, I only just come to sleep, but not sleep. I was well awake, and I saw in the air on at some older time, and blackboard something, and it was formula, quantica formula, and my soul, immediately, it was a very advanced mathematics. And I saw this. Yes, I saw because it no disappeared quickly. I saw, oh, good. Oh, why? Maybe because I like quantic. Maybe I had a book, but I never have been studied in this incarnation, never. And I am not good to mathematics. And disappeared. And yes, this precise that's what you say about, because it can happen that you have a glimpse of your past, maybe, or maybe it will be the future. I don't know, because the spirits never do something without meaning, without a reason. But I would like I only say about that because explain your also as Charles said. This
Yeah.
is your. I think is that it's
Yeah.
happened something. Sometimes it happens with me things like this. So
Yeah, we always want to find an explanation for everything and why, you know. But you see, yeah, the question is, could you understand what was written there? Perhaps if you were a physicist or someone working in that, you said, oh, I got inspired by the equation. I realized that my equation there had a little problem that in that, you know. So this was perhaps the purpose of seeing that. But you may also be in a place, you know, detached from your body. You may go to a place, and that equation called your attention. It wasn't for you, but it called your attention because, oh, wow, whoa, you know, we don't know if you
I said
were,
I
yeah,
was there and I saw. Understood.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you.
And sometimes this perception in the mediumistic work, it may help when those mediums who are seeing something, they say, well, I'm seeing this. I don't know if it makes sense, but it may help the whole process because it has something to do with the spirit that's being helped there. And then, you know, that together with the message that another medium receives from a benefactor, you know, or, you know, something we don't know. But we shouldn't question ourselves, why this? Why this? Oh, all the time, why this? No, we should just, you know, okay, right. Yeah. Perhaps, yeah, that will be used in the future. Or perhaps it's just a perception of mine of the environment where I am, you know, this sort of thing. But thanks anyway. It's very interesting. Okay, so let's move forward here. Oh, did I finish this paragraph? Yes, spirit, medium. Of course, we can discuss mathematics through a medium that is completely unfamiliar with the subject, but almost always the spirit of the medium possesses such knowledge in a latent state. As I said before, they prefer. It's usually the case, but not the only possibility. As you know, they say again, Erastus, no? Erastus says again, we prefer, it's better, or almost always it happens in this way, but it doesn't mean it cannot happen in a different way. Now we can. That is, knowledge that is personal to the fluidic being and not to the incarnate being, since the current body is an inadequate or rebellious instrument for this type of knowledge. So it's saying here, fluidic being is the spirit, and the incarnate being, saying that yes, the body is always, you know, it how would I say, limits our perception, the manifestation of what we bring within us, and of course, you know, the fact that we are used as a channel for the communication. As it said here, current body is an inadequate and rebellious instrument for this type of knowledge, meaning that we may have a great knowledge of maths, but in this incarnation, it's there, latent, but doesn't manifest itself. And, you know, the reason, well, there is certainly a reason for that. And what he's saying is that the body itself is, you know, an instrument that is a limiting one. The same applies to astronomy, poetry, medicine, and various languages, and with all the other knowledge peculiar to the human species. Finally, we still have the tedious task of preparation applied to mediums that are completely unfamiliar with the subject under consideration, which is that of putting the letters and words together as is done in typesetting. I'll finish then the message and, you know, we can discuss. As we have already stated, spirits do not need to clothe their thoughts in words, spirits. They perceive and transmit them naturally amongst themselves. Incarnate beings, on the contrary, can only communicate through thought translated into words. While letters, words, nouns, verbs, and sentences are required for your perception, even mentally, no visible or tangible form is required by us. This was actually a message from Erastus and Timothy. So we see spirit to spirit thoughts. How, can I communicate with a spirit who, when I return to the spirit world, can I communicate with a spirit from another country who in his or her last incarnation didn't speak Portuguese or English? Yes, you can. It's thought to thought. You send your thoughts, I perceive your thought, and then I understand your thought. Of course, again, it doesn't happen in this straightforward way, all the time. We know spirits who are still very earthbound, very attached to the earth, to the physical expressions in the physical body that are very limited. They have certain limitations. Not that they cannot do it, but they are in a level of attachment to the physical world that to them it may become a barrier. In the same way that some spirits don't cross walls or doors because they are still too attached to the physical way of things, things happening, and it is a limitation for them. Where is this limitation coming from? Well, we can go into fluidic limitations and so on, but everything actually in the end is at the state of their mind, as a spirit, still too earthbound. And the same may happen here. But what it says is that spirit to spirit, only thoughts. You don't need the language as such. And when it comes to us here in the physical world, we need to dress them in words. So we need to learn the language. We need to, express ourselves. And some of us, we know the language. We have difficulties to dressing our thoughts into words. We say things to people and they, do you mean that? No. I mean something completely different. Oh, because the way you said it, I understood it this way. So you see how difficult it is for us to make ourselves understood here. But in the spirit world, it's thought to thought. It's easy to understand the essence in principle. So when working with mediums, again, there's always an element from the medium. The instrument is never, ever 100% transparent to the spirit. There's always something, that comes from the medium. But the important thing is, as Charles said, the purpose of things, the message. Oh, but it's the message from an enlightened spirit, and there is a spelling mistake. Well, the spelling mistake came from, different, for different reasons, especially mediums who are writing very, very quickly in a frantic way, and it may happen. That's why also the medium usually revises when it's, a written text, revises. There's no problem in doing that. And even good writers, they make mistakes because the important thing for them is not to type it correctly. It's just to let the thoughts flow. It's the same with the medium. It's important to let the thoughts of the spirit flow. And then later, if there is any mistake or anything that the construction of the sentence wasn't very clear, the medium still has the message in his mind, so he can, arrange that in a better way. Okay. Oh, Rafaela, yes, please.
I've heard once that if a message must come across and must be understood by a group, that they take us out of the body the night or whatever days before, and then they explain the message to everyone on that group. And they create a vibration of learning. So they normally take a spirit with lots and lots and lots of vibration with force to ignite the knowledge, a spirit that's very experienced and elevated and understands that knowledge and verbally says, explains, and at the beginning, at the end, said, you will all understand. Almost like hypnotism works on our mind, but in a very gentle, positive way. You all will understand. You will put this in practice. When something that's been designed to be learned, that without that knowledge, a lot of the group needs that in order to succeed, or in order to progress, or in order to move on to a new stage. And that can be more or less subtle, depending on what's required from that knowledge and from the group.
Yes, I would say yes when it's something important. And don't forget, we usually say we are preparing ourselves today for the work that we are doing, perhaps next week. So every meeting, when it finishes, mediumship meeting, when it finishes, we begin to prepare ourselves, if we are not already preparing ourselves, for next week and during the night. And that's why it's important for all of us, but especially mediums and those with responsibility in the mediumistic work, to prepare ourselves 24/7. Because it's part of the work. The work doesn't start at 9 and ends at 10. No, the work started already. That is a special moment within, the work, and then moves on. Then the work carries on. Yes, we are preparing ourselves. We may get some elements in the spiritual world during the night, during the previous night, during the week, during months, preparing ourselves for the task. We're constantly preparing ourselves. So that's why we insist that a good medium, in inverted commas, good in the sense that the medium watches himself or herself and is constantly preparing him or her in the best possible way to the mediumship work. So it's not the fact that, oh, I go and read books, and no, in the spiritual world as well, preparing ourselves when we go to sleep, asking for inspiration, contacting with our guardian angel. Yes, this is true, Raphael. When it is something really important, it won't happen, it's like improvised. Oh, that group, they have a meeting today. Oh, I'll go there and convey this message because it's an important message. And I think they'll, no, that is a work that, is done, basically all the time. The preparation and for us, learning and happy are those of us who are engaged in a course on the other side, because we have 1/3 of our day, perhaps 1/4 of our day, to do a course on the other side, to join some kind of work. And it's up to us to be an assiduous and good student there or worker there, so when we come here, we carry on our tasks in a slightly different way, because, we are bringing that with us. So that's it for today. Let me just stop. I enlarge my screen so I can see all of you, and I usually forget to close the one that is shared. Okay.
Munir, can I just ask, are we meeting next week? As somebody asked on the notice board, so I'll let them know.
Oh, yes, I don't see why not.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, for those who want, yeah, no problem. Okay, so let's do a closing prayer. Let's thank the benefactors, the good spirits, for the inspiration, for the guidance. May we deserve their company all the time. May we prepare ourselves in the best possible way to be with them, to be inspired while we are here in awakened states or during the night when we go to sleep, but our spirit may be active in good tasks, learning, working, and preparing ourselves. Because we have all the time at our disposal for our own improvement and improvement of those around us. Let's make good use of our time. So be it.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you all
Thank
you.
very
Bye-bye.
much
Thank you.
indeed. See you all next
See you.
week for those who want to join us in the study. God bless. Bye-bye.
Blessings, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Munir, I won't be Where is he?